So in the process of preparing for some sort of a natural disaster or any other emergency, it's very helpful to actually have some contingency plans and not just have the mindset that you're going to leave your house and just head off into the wilderness or something like that. It's best to have one primary plan and some contingency plans. And what I mean by that is you have a destination in mind that you are planning to go to, but in the event that something happens that you can't get there, you have a plan B, a plan C, and so on. It's definitely not a good idea to just have no destination at all in mind. In a situation like that, there's been some piss poor planning involved, in my opinion. Sometimes that could happen. If you're away from your home, for example, and a massive fire burned the road between you and your home, and there's just chaos everywhere and mass rioting. I mean, you oftentimes aren't going to be able to really do anything but just bug out right away and think about things later. But that should be the exception and not the rule. So in a lot of families, relatives, extended family, are a good resource to draw on in terms of a destination. That's going to require you talking to them beforehand and setting up a plan that if this happens, is it okay if I come over to your house? And vice versa. If something happens where you are, you're free to come over here. And so you have sort of an agreement amongst family members that, hey, you'll never just be out on the street as long as my house and it exists and I'm alive. So come to build a good rapport with family members. That's often the best route to take. Sometimes family is not really a good resource because of interpersonal problems, or maybe they're just dead or you don't know them or something like that. So in that case, just identifying some friends that you have that have a like-minded mindset where, hey, if something happens to their house, burns down, whatever, they can come over to your place. Conversely, if something happens to your place, it's understood that you can go over to their place. And in that sort of a setup, I would think it would be a good idea to sweeten the deal and say, hey, if I ever do have to come over to your house, it's not like I'm just going to be a mooch. I'll pay you to live there as much as I can. If I lose my job because of this episode, then just realize that I will pay you back, and I will also, kind of carry my weight when I'm at your house. And same thing, they would have that understanding about you as well, where they would also have to contribute to your household, and they're not going to be a mooch on you either. So it's sort of a mutually agreed upon philosophy, I guess. Sort of an extension of that is what I would call prepping groups or preparedness groups, where beforehand, before anything like this happens, you have a network of people. And the idea in that scenario is, hey, Frank has 50 acres out in such and such a county. It's outside of the county that we currently live in. We have a bunch of people in this area that we live in, and hey, it's a high risk for fire or whatever. Hey, if there ever is a fire, let's all agree that we'll pool our funds together and we will establish sort of a camp on Frank's 50 acres, and we all agree that we're going to sort of maintain over the years, before that event has to happen, you help him make upgrades too. You might help him pay the taxes, sort of sweeten the deal so Frank's not feeling like he's being taken advantage of. It's actually a bunch of people coming together and deciding that they're going to work towards a common goal and a common good and have a place to go to. So that particular place might have some outhouses already there, have an outdoor kitchen, some barbecue pits, and maybe some septic tank hookups where you can take your RV and you can put your waste in there, and so on and so forth. So that would be more like a prepper group scenario. It's just an extension of the friends concept that I mentioned right before that. The other option is in a lot of situations like natural disasters, there is public assistance that is an option in certain cases. This is where it gets it's real iffy on from my perspective. I'm in the Jason business, and so whatever is going to help me and my family is what I'm going to do. And that means that sometimes the best option might be public assistance in terms of a place that you are able to go and get showers and use the restroom and so on and so forth. So a situation like that might be a football field opening up, and you pull your vehicle in and you have a place to kind of rest and camp, more or less, and there might be security there to help you out, kind of keep things safe and all that. So that's not a bad option sometimes for people, especially if you don't really have the other options to go to. So what I would say, though, in the case of, let's say, the Louisiana, the flood that happened down there in 2005, when the levees broke, a lot of those folks were sort of pressured to go into I believe it's called the Superdome, which is like a walled stadium, and they went in there and people were getting raped and beaten up and that type of thing. In that sort of situation, I'm not interested in doing it, and if they pressured me to do it, they're going to have to pressure me with violence and basically force me to under threat of violence and beat the hell out of me, because there's no way that I am interested in doing that. I would simply ignore the police and drive on, and they're going to have to be willing to put the resources into me to search for me instead of manning security at that place. So it's a judgment call. They may pursue you, and if that's the case, then you get caught, then you suffer the consequences. But I don't really view the authorities as my friend generally, because I'm in the Jason business and in the Jason Hoyt extended family and friends business. I'm not, and they are in the sort of the public good business. And what that means is most of the time their interests and mine aren't lined up, so I'm just not interested in obeying them in this sort of a context. So you just have to make a judgment call, is what I would say, and you're going to have to weigh things out, weigh the risks of going in versus weighing the risks of getting caught. Are they going to have the manpower to go after one person in a vehicle that doesn't want to stay there? Maybe. I would say maybe not. But they might, and then you just got to be willing to suffer the consequences if that is how it plays out. So in summary, it's the best idea to have some plans set up in place. You have a main plan, which might be family, and then you have a contingency plan, where if family is dead or they're out of their house because of the same natural disaster, then maybe you have a couple different friend options. And then maybe you might also have a prepper group option, and and then also consider public assistance as well. Sometimes that might be the best thing. And then the last option, in my opinion, should be just striking out in the wilderness and just hoping to live off the land. That is a real fantasy world that a lot of people like to think about. I've been victim of that as well, thinking about that mindset and fantasizing, but it's really the worst god-awful scenario, because in South America, there was, I think it was Argentina, there was a situation where there was a sort of breakdown of society for a while, and there was a book written on this where a lot of the people, they just struck out in the wilderness and sort of had their bug out location and all that. And what happened is marauding bands of thieves and rapists went along, and they just took what those preppers had. They raped their women, and so they escaped the wilderness all right, but then they were at the hands of the thieves, or victim to the hands of the thieves. So, anyways, that's the worst case scenario, is to strike out. You need to have a plan in place. So that's all for this video. Thanks.